Hi, and welcome to the Feel Good Always podcast. I'm Becky Bradley, and this is real stories of love, connection, and remembering who we are. I'm here with Dee Dee Welch. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. Dee Dee is my guest today, and Dee Dee and I met through tragic circumstances. My daughter Kira was in a fatal UTV accident at 15 years old, and Dee Dee was somebody that came to help me through this really tragic time right after that happened. And what we share in common is that your son Emmett also died in a tragic accident, but many years ago. And that's how we meet. I'm going to get into that part of that story and really what we're here to do on this podcast, and why you're here, because it's not just about that story. It's much bigger than that. And for anyone that's new here listening to this podcast, we talk about spiritual awakening, ascension, really just moving into these higher levels of consciousness, a great awakening, which is what happened to me when my daughter Kira, when she died. I experienced an intense, really unimaginable grief, as anyone could imagine. But simultaneously, I was experiencing this really huge awakening, connection, questioning everything that I'd ever known in the physical world. And you were a big part of that, Dee Dee. But in that, which has led me to this podcast, I just follow the signs and the connections. And what I do here is I'm bringing people onto this podcast that have found me through this, really this frequency, this energy. Dee Dee is one of them. All of my guests are just, I would say, in quotes, normal people, all walks of life, people from all different faiths coming here, explaining and talking about how they have experienced their own awakening, their own experience with something bigger that's happening than just our physical world. And these people have continuously found me my whole life, but since Kira died, it's been massive. And it was happening very rapidly right after she died. I just would hear all the people are coming. They are all coming to help you heal. And I knew it was coming from Kira, but when it actually started to happen, it was like mind-blowing because it was a bunch of people. These were definitely people that came to help me walk through the hardest moments of my life, but also just to bring me these messages. And that's what I'm doing today. I'm bringing these messages to those that need to hear them, those that are grieving, suffering, that are feeling something more, that are awakening themselves on an individual level or a collective level as we watch a lot of things happening in the world, to know that there's something bigger. I know that your experience is going to help someone. So with all of that being said, we could talk about how we met, which was interesting.
Yeah.
Well, how did you find out about me?
I got a call from my friend. I get calls occasionally, sadly, because after losing my son in 2004, when a parent loses a child, if somebody knows me, I'll get a phone call. Yeah, so she just called me and told me she had a friend who just lost a daughter. She actually she called me before that to just tell me about her own daughter who lost a friend.
Yes.
Because they were friends. And then she called me again saying that she didn't know what to do. She was hurting for you, and just like some advice on what to do. And
then you messaged me.
Yeah.
So that's how we meet. My daughter has just died. It's about 2 or 3 days later, right before Christmas. And you start messaging me, and many people were messaging me. I was very held up and very supported. But it wasn't just that you had a child that had died, because I had already had some people coming into my life ahead of time that this had happened with. It was the words that you were saying to me that I believe you were brought to me, and they were comforting me. It wasn't even that I understood what you were saying. It was the feeling behind them. I share that on this podcast all the time. The words don't always have to make sense. It's a feeling. So you were talking about separation being an illusion. You were trying to explain some really big concepts to me that I didn't understand. I mean, I appreciated what you were saying. And it was like, okay, there's something about what she's saying. And you were filling me up with peace, which didn't make sense to me because my daughter had died. She wasn't walking through the door, and my body and my soul was trying to make sense of something that didn't make sense. But you were one of the only people at that time that it wasn't looking to you because you seemed to be okay. Yes, you did understand, but it was your words.
Yeah. And I would say, I remember that. And it wasn't necessarily me texting you. You were seeking.
Yeah.
And so I think what happened is my ex-husband and I went to meet you and your husband because, gosh, I feel like I might even I'm feeling a lot of emotion just because I'm going back to when that first happens and that level of pain is so great. And I remember when it happened to Jeff and I, the pain is so excruciating that you think you are gonna die.
Yeah.
And I remember when it happened to us, we just looked around like, we need help. Like, has anybody else gone through this before? Like, what's happening to us? So whenever I meet parents, I knew you guys were in the same boat because you said, yeah, let's meet. And
I wanted to die.
Yeah. And you kind of just wanted to see other parents that are like, we did survive. You are going to survive. You are going to get through this.
But it didn't matter. Actually, I didn't care that you survived. Yeah. I mean, for me, like you're saying, it's so intense. The pain is so intense that, I mean, we're talking like a week later.
Yeah.
So it's so intense that it wasn't, even if I saw someone surviving, there's that part of you that's like, but no, not me. Yeah. I can't because it's so intense. Yeah. But I remember laying there in bed and Mike was, it's absolutely frightening. I know. And anybody that's listening that's connected to Kira, it's so hard for them to hear this, but it's just true because it brings, so if you're listening and you're connected to our family and this is bringing you to tears, like sometimes we have to keep going back there because it is absolutely frightening laying in bed. I think my son was in there with us, my 29-year-old son, my husband, and I'm not sure we're going to be able to take the next breath. And I'm really scared. And I had already been reaching out to you. We had already kind of experienced I feel like a powerful synchronicity, which I'll share that in a minute. But I said, I need help.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what I needed. But of course you were willing to drop anything. And you were like, I can meet with you.
But I do remember, because I am like this with anybody who, if I meet with a parent or talk to somebody who's lost someone, you can't help them really other than, I would never just say, tell you all of these things. So I said a lot of things. I wouldn't have told you any of that unless you've asked for something.
That makes sense.
And then I said, well, think about this, think about that, explore. My whole message is, I can't give you my journey, but I promise you, look into it. The world is a magical place. There is more to us than our earth suits.
Yes. And
only because through that, in that pain, and you had some of these things happen to you, I saw a light. I saw things that weren't of this world. And that was just one of the starting points. Well, when I say starting point, I mean, I think our whole lives that we're trying to become awakened, like little layers get shed. But when something really big, for me, that was so huge. I feel like a ton of layers got shed.
When Emmett died. So so this is 2004 and now you're 19 years later here with me, brought right back to it because that's how this pain works. It doesn't completely go away. It comes back where you can feel, I don't know if somebody told me I was afraid it was going to get worse because it just kept getting worse. And they said, well, it's never going to get worse, but it can always go back to as bad as it ever was, which thankfully over time gets less and less. We talk about that with grief, but that it can come back. And so Emmett died in an accident, and you can share as much about that if you want. But you had some experiences that now when you're sharing with me, you were able to kind of share some of those, which was, I don't remember because it's all a blur, but it does make sense that because I feel like I was being guided by my higher self that to keep asking.
Yeah.
And what you shared with me things that happened ahead of time. You shared with me with things that happened to you that day, which I had never experienced anything like what you're talking about. I have sense. And then you shared even more. So I don't know if you want to start with that time period, just for anyone that's listening, those experiences that you were having leading up to. And
Okay. I don't know how long this podcast goes. You're
it's
gonna
fine.
have to stop.
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
We got this. People can listen on double speed if they need to.
So it was my husband and I, we had been together for, I don't know, 10 or 15 years by now. We were in a Bible study. I'm going to start a little bit before
Sure.
Emmett passed, because we were in a Bible study because I was raised in the Christian faith and then kind of got away from it a little bit and then had kids and then wanted to give my kids a spiritual education. And so where was I going to start? We were going to start with Christianity because that's what I knew. My husband didn't. So that's kind of a long story of how we ended up deciding we would do this Bible study. Anyway, we were in this study for about 6 years. So this starts like, it's a spiritual journey. Our journeys go, it's like up and down, trying to figure out why are we here? Okay, so I'm in a Bible study with two other couples that are really good friends of mine. And one of my friend's sons, he was about a year away from Emmett, just a year younger than Emmett. And so for 7 years, we saw each other's babies grow in this Bible study. We'd meet every week. And my girlfriend says he says he sees angels or shadows. And I kind of ignored her. We all kind of ignored her a little bit because in religions, that's in the wacky section, I guess. I don't know.
To do that.
Yeah.
Or that's not like,
it's not,
I don't know.
I don't know what it is, but anyway, yeah. No judgment, whatever.
I don't know. And I was about to say what it is, but I don't know what they call it.
Well, if anybody's saying they sees angel or any of the stuff we're going to talk about today is kind of like weird to some people.
Okay.
Other people that have experienced it, it's not weird. I mean, we live in life is weird. It's amazing that we're even alive on this earth.
Yeah.
Anyway, fast forward this was just maybe a month before Emmett passed, and we were at a camping trip. And she's telling me everybody had kind of gone to bed, and it's just her and I around a campfire. And she decides to share with me what's been going on with her son and how she met a lady in our neighborhood who sees the same things as Jacob. Anyway, so I remember because I had a margarita in my hand, and she starts telling me, you know how I told you that my son can see angels and shadows? And I'm like, yeah. She's telling me he really can see them. And she's telling me about how she took her son to have an EKG done to make sure he wasn't schizophrenic because she couldn't understand, what is he seeing? She doesn't see it. She's not into, she's actually a Sunday school teacher at a church. Like, all sounds really strange. Sometimes it would keep him up at night because he would say he'd be playing with the angels. But then he started saying he would see shadows, and the shadows were scary, and that's what was scaring him. And so this is when it started to become a problem because he said, she said, there's no shadows in here, Jacob. You have to, go to sleep. But he'd say, no, there's a, he'd say he could see their faces. He can see if they were sad or happy and it just freaked him out. I mean, you're only 7. Anyway, she took him to have his head, tested to make sure he wasn't just seeing things that he shouldn't be seeing. And anyway, after that, the doctor said, hey, no, his brain function is fine. He could very well be seeing angels for all we know. And I'm sitting here, margarita, and I didn't have a drink of it because I was just like, because before that, every Bible study, I would be like, oh my God, pray for my faith. I'm like, I thought reading this book was going to bring me closer and I was going to have some amazing experience, but it was actually like, brother, that sounds ridiculous. Just for anybody who's Christian out there, don't worry. I love Jesus now. I just see that book with different eyes. I see it with spiritual eyes now, and it makes a lot more sense than how the clergy wanted me to see it. So anyway, in the Bible study, that's what I would always ask for. Pray for my faith, because I really do want to know why I'm alive on this earth. And is there something beyond here? So of course, when I'm studying the faith, it wasn't just to belong to a group. Like, I really wanted answers. But Christ Jesus was supposed to have all of these answers. And in this book and the way people are telling me how to read it, oh my God, I know this is does not sound good to me. Anyway, my brain.
So the answer, you were having an experience in Bible study where you're reading it, but you're maybe being told how to interpret it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
It didn't feel aligned?
Or... For example, like, people that don't accept Jesus are going to go to hell. Okay. That is really a tough one for me because that doesn't make sense to me for a loving God. That just doesn't make sense. Like, a child that is born in the Middle East or in a jungle in, wherever on the planet. Like, come on. And you have an all-loving God. I don't want to get into that subject, though.
And I have equally had, and I don't either, and anyone that's listening to this podcast, in the sense that it's why I try to bring on like everybody. I also want to have conversations about this stuff, and I have with people, like, explain that to me, because I have felt that same way. But what you're saying, I do always encourage people, have your own experience. Don't take Dee Dee's, don't take mine, don't take the clergy,
exactly.
don't have your own experience and listen to yourself. So you were thinking like, oh, here's this, and maybe some of this isn't real, but now you're starting to actually you're praying for. You're actually praying, you're asking, show me, right?
Yeah.
Give me the faith and show me. And then in your life, you're starting to be shown in maybe a way you didn't think, which is her telling you that her son is seeing angels, and you're like, okay. Yeah. And then what happens?
So, well, when she's telling me that, I was really happy. She told me about them going to the hospital, and then she said she met this lady in our neighborhood, and she's a Christian. She made sure, because that was a really big thing for us. They have to be Christian. If they're not Christian, it's going to be the devil. And she sees the same things as Jacob. She takes her son in to see this lady, and she said, Dee Dee, they see the exact same things. I'm like, you do? What do they see? She goes, we just went in there, and he was so happy. He kicked off his shoes, jumped on the couch, and she asks him, Jacob, do you want me to call on your angels or my angels? And he said, your angels. They say a little prayer, and they open their eyes, and they're looking around, and she says, Jacob, do you see any angels in here? Yes. Do you recognize them? No. That's right, because these are my angels. And then and I'm still here with my margarita. Like,
you believed her, though.
Of course, I know my friend.
Yeah,
and I know she's never even talked about any New Age stuff or anything. She's definitely Bible. So she said, and then she says, Dee Dee, you know what else Jacob sees that I didn't even know? We have a color around us, like an aura. Have you ever heard of that? And I'm like, oh my God, yeah. When I was in my 20s, I was like New Age stuff, but I thought it was all crazy stuff. And she said, no, we do. Kathleen turns to him and says, do you see, what color is your mom? And Jacob says, Susan, they look at each other, and he sees that his mom doesn't see that. Like, are you serious? You don't see this? White, like, duh. I'm like, Mom, you don't see that either?
Because he'd been seeing it.
Yes.
But he didn't know.
He didn't
know that other people didn't see it.
No.
Oh, that's so, I love this so much, because
we
don't know. How would you know what your perception is if you just think everybody sees it? So he's like,
so
wow.
He's an innocent child. And they see the same things, and there's a more to that story, but just we only have so much time here. I was so happy because I was like, wow, this is really restoring my faith in a God or a divine. I mean, this is not of this world. Like, this makes me so happy, and I want to meet this lady. I don't know. She was a, quote unquote, a healer, Reiki healer. I didn't have anything wrong. I didn't know what I would go in there to see her, but I just wanted to see her. And anyway, she gave me her number and said she's really hard to get in to see. It could take you years. And I've had other friends try to go see her, and it's taken them like, a year, 2 years. It's really hard to get in to see her. And she says, God will bring me the people I'm supposed to see. Anyway, when I called her, she picked up right away, and she had a spot open like 2 days later. And so I was like, yeah, of course she did.
Yeah, I mean, this is like kind of, it reminds me of mine, like all the people coming ahead of time that we find each other, that of course, even with a 2-year waiting list, it almost has to be this obvious.
Yeah.
This like out there that it has to be that you get in for 2 days for you to see just how beautifully orchestrated it was for your experience that leads you, to where you are now, but really what happened then. So tell me about this meeting with her.
So I get a session with her, and I'm kind of feeling like it's like, I don't know, a palm reader or something. So I'm still like, who is she? What is she going to see? And she didn't really know what I was in there for. And she just said, you seem fine. And everything was going fine. My husband and I were building a new house. I just had my third child, and we sold our business. Everything was just, no problems, healthy, everything. Anyway, she says, well, get up on my table. Let me just kind of check your energy and see what's happening. And so she's reading my chakras, which I don't really know a lot about chakras. So I'm just listening to her. And she comes up to my crown, which is our connection to the divine. It holds the energy that connects us to the divine. And she said, wow, it's like there's some major changes about to happen. And so when somebody says that, again, it's like, okay, Palm, I don't know who this lady is. Okay, a lot of things are going to be happening. And she said, no, like big changes. Like, I don't know. It's like you're being prepared for something big. And it's like you're going to be sharing this with a lot of people. And I was just, I have no idea what it is. And not even taking it in really, just kind of like taking everything she said with a grain of salt. And she said, no, I mean, it's like you're going to be on TV kind of big. And I was like, okay. She just said, oh, and she kind of has a little sing song to her voice and joyful spirit, just kind of, okay. So anyway, we need to open your throat because you're going to be speaking. And I said, okay. Anyway, end of my session with her. And I thought, oh, that was kind of interesting. I mean, nothing earth shattering or anything. But then a week later, we were at my son's softball game, and my husband was the coach, and the little boy I told you about was also on the team. And so every Saturday, the deal was my husband and my son would go to the baseball park and get ready. And then I would take my newborn and my 9-year-old, and we would take the pickup truck and drive there, set up a little picnic to watch the softball game. And then this particular time, my son was learning to ride his bike in the neighborhood. And so what they would do is they'd ride their bikes down to the park. I'd take the pickup truck. Then we'd all, at the end of the game, put everything in the pickup truck and go home. Well, this time he's wanted to ride up this hill. There's a steep hill in our neighborhood. And so his dad said, okay, we'll ride it home this time. So I went home, started lunch and everything. And then I got a call from police officer or fire department or something. And they put Jeff on the phone and said that my son was just hit by a car. And it's everything kind of just turns white from there. I mean, I ran to the hospital. I was barefoot. I didn't even put on shoes. And yeah.
Life shattering. I mean, the moment, of when, everything changes.
Yeah.
It's like that moment. Yeah. Same with the knock on my door for Kira. It's like the swirling of, except she never made it to the hospital. But, which is, it's like it's all any way that this happens to anyone is really, there's no words. The experience.
In that moment is horrific. And he died at the hospital. And so I don't need to go into that too much because I'll start crying, but it was painful. And so all I remember is my house became full of tons of people. And all of a sudden, I remember the first time somebody brought in a teddy bear to me and said they're starting to leave stuffed animals at the site. And I was just like, I don't want this stuff. I was still trying to process it. I know this isn't on podcast.
No, I think it's important. Yes, that part too. And I'm never saying don't do this because it was hard. Everybody has a different experience, but my house filled up with people and flowers. And I was like, if I see one more freaking flower, like I can't even understand what is happening, that I couldn't even see from my living room into my kitchen because there were so many flowers. I was like, get these flowers out of here, get them out of here, because the flowers were a representation that my daughter died and she should be in her bedroom.
Yeah.
I know. I'm just like, I can actually have flowers now. She loved flowers. But at the time it was I can imagine even just thinking about it now that why? No, this shouldn't be happening. I shouldn't what do you mean my child is, there's teddy bears? Like, no, it's like the mind can't make sense of what's happening because it's, out of order. It's out of order. Everybody kept saying that it's out of order. This should not happen. But it did happen for me, for you. I mean, even the circumstances of Emmett doesn't usually go home that way, right? And the same thing with Kira, but for what Kira has shown me since she died, that was for her going to be what happened. I mean, it was kind of, that was what happened. And my mind never did the what if, which is different than maybe your situation because you had some other things that you could potentially be mad at because it was a drunk driver, right? So which is a whole set of human things that we have to walk through and understand. Processing your child dying alone is enough. But you were given a piece a week ahead of time, this woman. that is telling you that you're about to be on the news,
Yeah.
that something big is coming. And then, of course, that's not what you imagined, this big thing.
No.
Maybe not even begin to.
Oh, heck no. No, 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 no. Even when I've talked to her about it, she said, oh my God, if I knew that was what was going to happen, yeah, that would have been hard.
But I feel like I had stuff like that. I had multiple things happening in the 2 weeks that were leading up. I don't need to share what those are, but for me, they were breadcrumbs that were given to me. Not that were going to help me in that moment, because like you said, nothing was going to help me. My body, my soul had to experience this. That was part of what I needed to do. But later, as I began to wake up and see the connection of everything and how everything's actually happening in this moment, and that I was given these pieces ahead of time, like you were, to show me this bigger thing that was being orchestrated, right? Which helps me to where I said today, helps put you in this position where you share this story with me years later, and it becomes a piece of my story to give me hope to see that we are experiencing something much larger than, because how can we know this ahead of time? How am I seeing all this or having these experiences ahead of time unless there's something much bigger at play? Big. And then all of our little stories intertwine, you know? I mean, this is so many years later, and this, you just sharing this story with me, it was something, it's the energy of it that I attached to.
Yeah.
And the angel story that you shared, you can share that too. Because for me, even you telling that story, it's me sitting there with my margarita, you know? I don't drink margaritas, and my child had just died. So, but I was like, wait, what? And I needed to hear it. So, and maybe someone listening needs to hear these, because these are real stories.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so the house was full, and I had my friend, Susan, whose son, Jacob, was the one that saw the angels and shadows. And I just remember people floating. I just remember, I don't know. I just remember flowers and teddy bears and just so many people, and people bringing water and toilet paper, and all of this is happening. And it was just kind of like a dream. And I remember seeing Susan, and then I grabbed her and said, Jacob, can Jacob see? And then I said, no, he's just a little boy. And then Susan said, what about Kathleen? Because I, just saw this lady a couple weeks ago. Can she help you? I was just needing to grab onto something to help me. And things were just floating by. People were floating by. That's just kind of how it felt. And then Susan, my best friend, I, said Jacob, and then, no, he's a child. This is too heavy. Just because he can see these things, it doesn't mean he has the life experience to know what it means or how it would relate to a grown-up who lost their child. And then she said, Kathleen. And I said, yes. And then I said, no, wait, because my Christian belief was, the devil. And I was like, I don't want to mess up any chances of Emmett getting to heaven. That was my initial thought, because that fear is so ingrained in you I was raised in a Southern Baptist church too. So, but I remember my friend looking at me, and this was my touchstone. And I always do this because this is exactly what she did. I mimic her because it's so ingrained in my head. She looked at me and she said, Dee Dee, think of Jacob. He is an innocent child. He sees these angels and shadows. It's love. God is love. Anything of love is love. And so I said, that's right. Yes, ask Kathleen if she'll come see me. I just needed help. So she came, and I was laying on the couch crying, and my brother had said, he told me later that he had never seen somebody cry like that. He said, my back was arching, and, I don't remember that, but I'm like, well, that kind of, the way you're saying it, that's how I feel. I could imagine I was doing that. And my husband was down at my feet, and I was just crying. I don't know, just a crazy cry. I don't even remember crying. I just remember the pain. I don't remember the tears. And Kathleen came, and she just came in like a joyful, loving person. And she was going to do some prayers by me. She started praying. And there's a whole bunch of things that happen there too, which are signs, which can be for another, if you ever do a show on sign. There are a ton of signs there that revealed themselves. The music, what was being said.
It was like a higher dimensional moment where everything started to connect, which is what we can experience now. But you've shared them with me, and I often say we do share signs on here, but to go really in depth into each individual sign, their felt experiences, their personal, we do that here just so that people can believe that signs are real. But when you're in this space, which I understand what you're talking about, like I was falling to the ground screaming, actually the humanity of it for all that witnessed.
Yeah.
It was a big day for all of them. It was the worst day of many people's lives, having to, lose Kira as a child, and then also having to witness the people they love, including a mother's pain, being asked to be in observance of that. And I was aware of it when it was happening. I was aware of my own, oh my gosh, this is absolutely every person that arrived, I'd fall to the ground screaming. But I also could rise above and watch myself and go, all of these people are experiencing this, and I will not hold it back for 1 second. I will not hold the pain inside. And I couldn't.
Oh, you can't.
But what you're describing is those synchronicities or signs and connections that just are, it's not just one, it's a lot, because you're now in this, for me, it was like the stripping away of everything to the truth.
Right.
Through that burning away of all of that wasn't true, so that I could connect. And that's when I say my field, I don't know what it is, I can't explain it, but starts pulling in all these signs. And these are the stories that you described to me that happened to you. Yeah. On the worst day of your life, you're experiencing the most profound experience.
Yeah. But I wasn't paying attention to really any signs at that time because I was in so much pain.
Yeah, later.
So, but Kathleen was at my side, and there were things that were happening that I became aware of after when I looked back, and I was like, whoa, that was the song that was on. That was, this happened. Da, da, da. That was after.
Same.
But while she
was
was
same, yeah.
Okay, yeah, because you're not
absolute wreck, but later.
Yeah.
But breadcrumbs. So go ahead.
Kathleen was praying or doing her work on me by my side, and I was just crying, and just her presence was just helping me. Just felt good. I can't explain it. And then all of a sudden, I just see this brightest, whitest, moving light. And I just stop crying and I just look at it. And I asked Jeff if he can see the light. And he said, what light? I go, can you see that light right there? And he said, no. And this is it was in October, and it was one of those stormy days where it's so dark during the day, where you have to have the lights on inside. And I said, you can't see it? And he said, no, he was already in his own pain. There's no light. And then I just keep looking at it. And Kathleen said, those are your angels. And she giggled, and she was talking about, they're these angels, she had a special message for me. She was seeing a lot of different angels, and there were a lot of messages that were coming through. Anyway, and I was just listening to him again with a grain of salt, but the message and the words were just, I don't know, bringing comfort to me somehow. And I'm just looking at this light as she's still talking. And then I say, Jeff, look up over my head, because there was like a transom window up on the wall behind me, I knew. And I said, is there a light coming in? I didn't want to move. Is there a light coming in from that window? And he said, no, Dee Dee, there's no light in here. And I just keep looking at it. And Kathleen again giggles, those are your angels. And then it starts changing color. And it starts turning into this pink, and it's this kind of moving light, and it's not pink, not purple. And I kind of was getting disappointed that the white light was going away. And I said, the light it's changing colors. It's not pink. It's not purple. And at the same time, we said magenta. And she said, yes, that's a specific angel, she told me, which I learned about later.
Can you tell me who that angel is? The name? You don't.
The Archangel Michael.
Okay, just curious.
The reason why I don't say it, well, there is a reason for it. Anyway, so apparently he appeared. Do I know that for a fact? I don't know. And that started a whole nother journey with me trying to learn about angels, which I learned that if they want to show up to you, they'll show up. I was just in this class, a very expensive class with a man who associates with angels. And I wanted to know the color of every angel and I wanted to know everything. And he just laughed and he said, the divine doesn't work that way. You don't just take a class, pay money, and then they're going to put on a show for you, and when they want to appear for you, they will, but they're not in the business of the entertainment, Anyway, she said it was the Archangel Michael, who she was seeing and she was talking about at the same time. And then we saw the color change, and she saw it too. And then from then on, I just sat up and I was like, I just saw the spirit world. I know what I saw. No one can take that away from me.
It changed everything.
It doesn't matter. Someone's son sees things, which is fascinating, like, wow. But having it happen to me, it was for the first time I was able to stop crying, because I knew that there was more to this life and that there was a spirit world, and my son was safe. And that started a journey. But that pain, I don't know if I would have seen that light or been open to it, especially blocked into my cultural religious belief, if I could have broke out of that. So I kind of feel like that pain was just a fire that just lit up all the BS around me so that I could see.
I love that you say that because I feel the same when people witness me or experience me, maybe in awe of how I live and what I see and how grounded or strong I stay in what I am experiencing, that I don't falter, and the calm. But that all came through what you're describing, which, we don't have to do that. You and I've talked about that. It actually doesn't have to be that bad, but that is the way that it happened for me, is that it was the worst possible thing that my soul, as Becky Bradley, my personality here, could have experienced. My worst fear. Absolutely 100% hands down. But it was in that worst possible, I can't really even articulate. I can't articulate, but I can't even really remember, right? I'm thankful. I can go back, but it's just unbelievable breath by breath. But it's that what you said. It's like the burning the way of the illusion that opens you up to these experiences that I couldn't have orchestrated on my own, but I was a seeker before, and you were questioning maybe your Christian belief systems. I was questioning my materialist belief systems. I believed in signs and connections and the flow of life and surrender, and I'd been practicing. What I started to experience was similar to you. It was just like this massive activation point, and which you were a part of.
Yeah.
For me, you continue on your journey, and I want to hear about all of that, because I know that that's the beginning to you seeking even more and seeing so much more. You end up becoming a Reiki practitioner, right? You end up working with Kathleen for years, right? She is your healer.
Still is, yeah.
She still is. And you end up going and learning all these seeking. And what it is with people always tell me you're going to help so many people with children that have died, that are in my situation, which is true, which you've done. However, it's bigger than that, because I believe that people with children who have died have experienced something that can help all of humanity, which is the level of pain and surrender that comes with the loss of a child opens you to question everything you ever thought about God, everything that anyone has told you to believe, because my love for my child is bigger than anything. It is bigger than anything that any human being, any book, anything that anybody has ever told me. And so it is in that burning away of what I think I've been told to believe and what is actually being felt in this body that is bigger than what I thought. And before I would question my beliefs. Well, wait, and no. So, and anybody that has lost a child or somebody very close to them, it could be a spouse, that is what opens you up to listen to what you are experiencing instead of what we've been taught, which is, I'm not against what has been taught. I'm not here to dispute people's experiences. I'm here to have my own experience. And what I've found is there are many of us parents with children on the other side that have experienced this, and you can believe me or not. I'm just here to share for whoever needs to maybe find some validation in their own. And your experience helped me validate, because I did need some other people that were experiencing this too, right? Yeah. And I think that it's very powerful.
Yeah.
But we come through it through great pain. So don't feel sorry for us.
Yeah.
I always say, don't feel sorry for parents that have lost children, because they have asked them about how they see the world.
Yeah.
Ask them about what they experience, or anybody that's experienced really great suffering, you don't have to feel sorry for them, because they experience the world in a way that you can't even begin to imagine if you haven't experienced that. Mm-hmm. Whether someone has lost their legs, and is in a wheelchair, you feel sorry for them, ask them how they experience the world instead of pitying them. And it's my message that they don't need my help. I mean, maybe in the beginning, these parents need my help. It's really humanity that needs my help so that we can see the truth, right? And it is through that burning away, which,
Yeah.
I'd love to go back to my old life and go back to sleep if I could. I'd love to have Kira in my house and just not know the truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if my child had to die, which she did,
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for the position I sit in today to know the truth, at least as I know it today, and know that it is ever expanding and that we're all expanding.
And all of our children are going to die.
Yeah.
Yes. We were talking about that the other day.
We were talking about that the other day, that everyone is going to die.
We are all going to leave. So whether you're here on this planet for 8 years, which Emmett was here for 8 years, or 88 years, it's such a blink of an eye. And I think parents who have lost children, we become really aware of how temporary life is here and how nothing belongs to us. We own nothing. We don't own our children. We don't own our homes. I mean, we have this piece of paper. Nothing belongs to us. We leave it all behind. So we only have this experience that we have here with each other. And I think that's why just seeing the unnecessary pain that we create in this world is just like a waste of time.
Yeah, and you have been described as Pollyanna your whole life, like that you kind of look at everything with like a Pollyanna, like everything's good, and that maybe when you were younger you were described that way by people, and that kind of reminds me of me too, that I also have kind of had like a everything's okay. I mean, look, I'm literally doing a Feel Good Always podcast and my daughter died. Like, it doesn't actually make sense, but it is that to look for the love notes, to look for what is good, because I don't want to live in pain.
Right.
I don't want to live in misery.
Oh.
And I got to watch my own thinking, and I'm being helped. And so are you. We're being helped by our children on the other side. And you can't separate us, actually.
Right.
You cannot. I know the truth of that. So I'm not afraid of anyone dying, because I'm like, turns out.
Yeah.
You cannot separate me from my child. You can't separate. Now, will I, my husband that I love so much, and I could go to bed at night and think, like, grasping onto the moment, right? Of like, what if someday he dies, which he will.
Yeah.
Whether he dies before me, I don't know.
Well, we leave our earth suit behind, but our spirit, our soul, and all of the holy writings in all faiths have been very clear about this, that there is, and even science will talk about energy. Yeah. E equals MC squared. Everything is going from energy into mass into energy. So there's a lot of mysterious things out there.
Yeah. These were the things you were sharing with me. E equals MC squared. Kira, on the other side, along with my higher self, the angels, the whole team is trying to show me there's something bigger, and that I would eventually be somebody, a bridge. They would say, Kira would say, and this is after she died, you are the oracle, you are the bridge between heaven and earth, over and over and over again. And it was like, what? And what it is that, we carrying this energy and saying it from the tallest mountain, right? Maybe saying something different and not letting my ego come in, because I did live a very materialist life, and I'm shouting from the rooftops all kinds of things that I knew nothing about. But I did know these things inside. Yeah. This is the truth of who we are. And so what happens with you is you come in, you're saying separation is an illusion. You're telling me this story. And like you said, it's because I was seeking. But one of the really amazing things I say that all these things were happening immediately. I mean, we had rainbows over our house. It wasn't just a rainbow. It was 7 different people like sending me stuff about rainbows at the same time. Lots of stuff was happening immediately. But one of the things was my family last minute decides on December 23rd, so Christmas Eve, to go to Target. We usually celebrate Christmas on Christmas Eve morning. Now listen, this is a family. This is my son, his wife, my daughter Maddie, Lila, my husband, the other people that were staying with us, really wanting to die. This is a family that we're just walking our bodies through the most painful, unbelievable. I mean, we lived together for 10 weeks. You know this. I'm saying it for other people to paint the picture of how freaking horrible this is. We decide last minute, 9:00 on Christmas Eve to go to Target. Like, what are we going to do? We're sitting outside. We decide to go. We get in there, and immediately I have a rush of that. What happens when, like, oh my gosh, it's a trigger, because how many times have I taken Kira and Lila to Target? Like, we've been there so many times, and I'm there and I'm just trying to grasp. There's Christmas stuff everywhere. And I stand there like in the sock section. I think I lost my family, and I think everybody was just like literally like throwing stuff in the basket. I don't even know what it was, but we just like we were trying to like buy because we still thought we needed to do Christmas, which is so ridiculous, but you just don't know what to do. And I'm bawling crying. At this point, I had I had met you through text, and I had actually been on a Zoom call, but it's all a blur.
Yeah.
I say to Kira in that moment. Now, I wasn't praying to God, even though at the time I had prayed, but I was directly talking to Kira. Kira, please help me, give me the strength, because I'm bawling, crying, and I'm like, please, please, please give me the strength, because I knew that I knew she was okay, and I knew I could connect to her. I kid you not, 1 minute later, there's this woman standing there. Becky, is that you, Becky? And I look, and I'm thinking maybe she's from my daughter's, a parent from somebody from the high school. I didn't know very many people, but we were all over the news. And I look, and I'm like, yeah. And I'm standing there with my family. You're like, it's me. It's Dee Dee. And immediately I had this overwhelming like burst of light, essentially, like, because I had literally just first of all, you were somebody that was providing me with this sense of peace already, because we had been talking through text. I was asking questions, you were sharing. And then I pray to Kira essentially for strength. Within a minute, you appear.
Yeah.
And I was like, I knew in that moment, like, this is big. Like, not only am I seeing signs, but people are being brought to me.
Yeah.
And we hug. I was just so grateful to be able to, like, meet you in person. And
which is so weird because I never go shopping at night.
Yeah.
I do everything in the morning. So that was really like an out of the blue thing for me to, I don't even know why. We got a thought, which I believe it's our angels or guides that like whisper to us, go to Target.
You told your family you were sitting
some reason
down.
I'm like, what did I say?
You told me that because I explained to you later what happened. We didn't talk about it right then, but I was just like, of course you're here, is what I said. And you said you were sitting down 9:00 at night to watch Christmas movies with your family and said, I need to go buy some yams.
Okay, yeah. It was something bizarre like that.
But it was such a, but when we talk about the divine orchestration of everything, Becky, who is so this picture, even where I sit today, I'm going to be sitting there someday. How do we get her there? How do we get her to knowing that something's bigger? As it's like these angels, including Kira, my higher self, all of the guides watching me have this absolutely horrendous, unbelievable experience and being like, we're going to give you pieces all along the way. And this was a piece. And so then you say that to me, which is all this like, wait, what's going on here? Like, it has to be that, like that we weren't going to go and we decide last minute and you decide last minute and there we meet. And then literally the next day is when we get back to the story that we were talking about where I meet up with you guys, which was another huge sign for me, which is, first of all, we're laying in bed that day, that my house is also filled with people. I want to die. I don't know how I'm going to take the next breath. It's literally, we've now experienced Kira's 16th birthday without her, which was on 12/22. It was already planned, 350 people. We've now experienced Christmas Eve. We end up heading into Christmas Eve and her birthday all within 12 days, her actual birthday, and New Year's Eve's. A lot that I'm just like, are you, like, we're being blasted through this unimaginable life, and we're laying in bed, and my husband, I don't remember, but it was like a panic attack essentially. I reached out to you and I said, like, because I don't know what to do. I would just be like, I don't think I could do it. I'm not going to be able to do it. And you were like, I could come give you some Reiki. I'd never done Reiki. You offered to go to a local park and you asked your, Emmett's dad, your former husband, to come, and we met there on Christmas Eve. And this was a huge point in my life and my story, because we arrived there. There's one table and you ask if I want to sit there and I say no. It was too close to the softball field. It was a trigger. Everything I could literally see. I'm seeing like rainbow auras right now behind you. I don't normally see that. Okay, it's very interesting. I digress. So everything was a trigger at this point, which means humans alive, cars on the road, everything. It did feel like a dream, but I didn't want to be close to the softball field. That was a trigger. And then you go, okay, how about this one? Well, that was near a playground. No. So we go to the third table and we sit there for about an hour. Mike and I are relentlessly crying. It's Christmas Eve and you are crying, you too. you guys were reassuring us, you were doing kind of Reiki on Mike at the time, or just like kind of trying to help and sharing your experience, crying along with us. And I think it was Jeff, I don't know, but what I remember hearing was it's like they have a bigger perspective and they're looking down and you're crying, but they see the big picture. And is this something you said?
Yeah.
Sounds like you, right? And they see the big picture, and this is so helpful to me. And it's like when you look at a toddler and the toddler is crying and they're hungry, and you're like, I know it's going to be okay, but they're losing it, and you know that it's going to be okay. That's how they're looking at you two right now, all of us, that they can see the bigger picture, that there's something bigger, and that you're experiencing this for the ascension of your soul. Like your soul chose this.
Yeah.
Which is what? I was like, what? My soul chose this? First time I'd ever just heard this. And then what happens later is, I loved what you said to me, because I was able to almost like rise above my own experience at some point and kind of see that I could continue to maybe trust. But what happens?
I don't know if I said our soul chooses.
Yeah, you might not have said that. That's probably something that came later.
It might have been something that came to you later.
Yeah, but it's for the ascension of our soul.
Okay. Yeah.
So the soul planning thing comes in later, where Kira tells me specifically, but that was coming into my field. Now, listen, that's not your experience, and it might not be somebody that's listening, but it is the experience of what has been shown to me. I'm not saying that's true for everybody, but for me, it was very clear that eventually, I don't know, there's lots of different ways that I got shown that. And then once I could directly connect to Kira, she was like, I'm sorry that your experiences, this was the plan.
Yeah.
And it makes sense to Becky that this was the plan, because I knew it ahead of time. I knew the plan ahead of time. That's why I got therapy over worrying something would happen to her, all kinds of things.
Can I stop there though too? Because I think they're both true. Like there is a plan, like you said, for you. And this is Dee Dee.
Totally.
POV is what my daughter says.
Yeah.
I don't know. From my understanding, because I really thought about that a lot, because I did think about, like, is this meant to be? Like, why would there be murder and rape? And I don't see a loving divine being saying, hey, we're going to send rape down for you, or murder, or hit and run.
Yeah, because he was in a hit and run.
It was a hit and run drunk driver. So, but from what I understand from reading different holy texts, is that there is a plan for all of souls. But when I don't know what words, I'm going to use words that are being used here, like when we become aware or enlightened, like Buddha would say, or we recognize from where we came from or who we are, whatever that is, that awakening. When we don't awaken and if we're in darkness, we can do things that are not part of our purpose, like getting so wasted on drugs and alcohol and whatever the man was that was driving the car. Yeah. Or we get so angry and we act out in violence. Those aren't things that that's not our calling. That's not our soul's purpose. Yeah. So for some people, everything happened in divine order and you were told that. And then sometimes if you have people that are out there in the world that don't understand who they are, and then this is part of my story, of my purpose, because when I looked at the man who killed Emmett, I just looked at him as someone who forgot who he was. He lived in a town of, when you look at the whole world, you live in abundance, you have everything, and he represents all of us. I'm not saying, oh, bad man, He is an example of how we all lose our way, and then we have to do things to like check out because the money isn't enough. The house isn't enough. The kids aren't enough. And we're still like have this empty soul. And then we do things that just create more unnecessary pain. That makes sense.
And then it caused you pain.
And then it caused, and so it's a ripple effect. So it came to me too. I was thinking, I do all this stuff just for my child, make sure he eats all this stuff. But then I send him out into the community. And so for me, after he passed, I said, you know what? I need to do my part to not make everybody think the way that I think, but encourage them to get on the path to wake up. There is more to this. It's not in the bottle of alcohol or whatever vices we're using or food or whatever, that to be present in this moment. There's magic happening right now. This world is a magical place.
And that is what you've done. And that's what you carried that message to me. And you carry it to many people. I know you worked with Kira's friends doing a virtues group. You hold a Sunday meeting. You do this in everything that you do, because maybe you can't change this man that took the life of your child, because you can't. You can't go back and change it. But maybe you can offer to somebody else to get what you have been given, which is an awareness that it comes from within, right? That it comes from within. And the thing about my experience is I sit here today, I could kind of like rise above my whole blueprint of a life and see it, that this was always, and see things ahead of time, that this was always going to happen. I'm not here to say that, you know, rape happens or murder or what happened with your son, it was part of your divine plan and that you guys chose it. But that was what the message
came to you
for me very clearly. And that is just my experience, that everything that I was always, I mean, I was walking towards the position I sit in today. I was always preparing for it. And I knew I was preparing for something. And I also feel like I'm preparing for more at this point. I just see it very clearly. And when I watch what has happened with Kira, and it does make it more simple because of the way that Kira died.
Yeah.
Because there's not anyone to blame.
Yeah.
It makes it more simple for me to be really just, does not take away the absolute horrendous pain. And trust me, people could have blamed people, and they did, because we could always find somebody to blame. But it was easy for me not to have someone else, because I would have.
You got the message that came through, because
I got the message.
Because I do believe that you can have conversation with the other side, if you want to call it, which they're right here.
They're right here.
It's hard to explain, but yes,
and then eventually I had this like pendulum, which I share messages every other week on this podcast, where she straight up was like, everything that was coming into my field, which is this, it starts with you there, it was to live. The other thing that happens that day is that I'm sitting there talking to you. I've picked not this table, not this table, not that table. I am sharing that I don't want to live. In my mind, I'm like, I cannot live through this. I cannot. There is absolutely no way that I could live through it. I'm breaking up these leaves on the table, and I've been staring down for an hour, and Mike's crying too, and he taps on my shoulder and he says, but look right there. And I look down, and in huge letters right in front of my face is live carved on the table, which was a powerful,
ingrained in my mind as well. That visual, we all looked,
and it had been there, but didn't see it. And that was when I was like, what is happening? Because it wasn't the first table. It wasn't the second. And it was right where I was. And then Kira continued to send me signs to live. So it's that same thing, just like the Target incident, that I was being helped. I was being shown. My field was calling in things that, yes, it wasn't just a few things. It was lots and lots of things that I simultaneously wanted to die and was also being guided for what was always going to happen, which for me is ushering in this great awakening as consciousness is being raised, experiencing breaking out of the illusion, breaking out of the idea of separation, experiencing oneness. And Kira had to die. And that's a really harsh thing for me to say. My child had to die very clearly because she's free.
Yeah.
This was her rule. She came here to, and if you watch her life, it's just like her whole life, the way she came in, especially in the year and a half, and gathered all of these people to completely shift their life. I mean, I have chills right now thinking about it, and my family the way we are, and the massive awakening that people were already watching, that it is spread, and lots of people are waking up. And this is not, it is God. It's beyond Kira, but it had to come from Kira for me.
Yeah.
It had to, because I wasn't going to God. It had to be my child for me to wake up. And so that is a role we agreed to. And she is still very much part of that, working through me as Emmett, as all of these. I am very connected to children on the other side. Not a role I would have chosen. I mean, what?
Yeah.
But that's who helps me, because they're not children. They're expansive souls.
Yes.
And they're helping us here as we have this experience here on earth of waking up right now in this time of history, which is what this podcast is about. And that we come here, that we do this, that your experience is that this horrible thing happens and that you've rippled out.
Yeah.
You're rippling out. And today there'll be people that listen to this message and that find themselves in your story. Hopefully it doesn't have to always be as bad, but there's still pieces of question, whatever it is. I can keep questioning my beliefs. If I believe every soul has a plan, but you're telling me your experience, do I go, nope, her experience is wrong, I'm right? No, I'm willing.
Both.
Yeah, they're both true. And I am also willing, if my life starts showing me lots of other things, I am willing to say, the only thing I know for sure is that I don't know. And also to trust my own knowing. So it's like those things, like I trust myself and I'm also open. I'm open. So, and that's what I invite everyone to do. Trust your own knowing and be open to question your beliefs, especially when those beliefs leave you thinking that, your child's going to go to hell.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like that feels too good. Or whatever belief it is. If it's a belief that you're a shitty person or, that you're never going to be okay, like question it because our own mind will imprison us. Yeah. And that's not what this feel good always energy is. Kira's constantly saying, and all the beings, it's not just Kira, the angels, to spread the calm, to feel good always, to start now. That's our divine right, that we can feel good. And you and I are examples of that, Doesn't mean that it's not hard.
And I like your message of feel good always. It doesn't mean feel good always, just be happy always. The more I listen to you, I was like, yeah, she's right. It's like feel everything, the pain, the joy, the sorrow, the frustration, all of the whatever's showing up. But there's that feel good, that knowing. And this is where I totally relate. When you have that certitude and you know, because you've been on that journey, you've sought out answers, and you know that there is something magical. There is life beyond this life.
And there's life within this life.
And you can be good. You can be good in one of the holy writings that I read. It says to be chill in hellfire. When you have that certitude where it can be blazing and you're just chill.
Yes.
It's that feel good always, knowing that everything is going to be okay. Everything is going to be okay. This life, everything here is temporary. The joy is temporary. The pain is temporary. It's all temporary. It's just passing through us. We're going to be okay.
Yes. And we need that reminder. I need that reminder too. And the feel good always is feel it all caps for the feel it all. And know, just like you said, know that we will be okay, that we will survive our feelings, that I'm not attached to, that's where that freedom and peace comes, almost through experiencing the worst possible thing. I've shown myself that I can experience the depths of pain of my soul, and it brought me to more peace and knowing it burned away the illusion, and that we can feel good. But that doesn't mean that I don't cry or anything like that. It's just that I try not to make myself miserable, which I can do, You can
cry and be in pain and at the same time know you're going to be okay.
And just
it's kind of a weird thing to think about, but yeah, you can have pain. I notice it's like pain and joy can sit on my shoulder and I can be okay with it. I'm not afraid of it.
That's the thing, is the releasing of the fear. For me, somebody that spent a lot of time in fear, has been one of the greatest gifts of all of this, is that I'm just not in fear. I'm really calm. I'm not in fear. It's so filled with amazing information. The last two things is first of all, you've talked a lot about seeking, and if you were to give advice to somebody or just share your own experience of what that looks like how if someone, you use the words spiritual eyes, and what that looks like for what you would suggest people do if they want to listen to you about this. I always say listen to yourself, but if what Dee Dee shares. And then the second thing, which you've kind of just touched on, is what feel good always means to you. So first
what advice would I give for somebody who
just like that's on the spiritual path and that's seeking?
Gosh, okay. I would not recommend this book or that book, because what I would start with is I would study the sciences and spiritual texts, Bible, Quran, Buddhism, and join them together. Because we're at a time in our life, in humanity, where our science now can make sense of what these holy ones were trying to tell us. So that helped, that kind of worked for me. I was kind of using both because I resonate with the Baha'i writings and the Baha'i teachings. And in the writings, we're told that if you want to know, well, number one, if you want to know truth, you need to be detached from everything you love and everything you hate. So your love of your current, maybe religion or the way you understand it, that love can blind you. If a truth comes that is contradicting what your pastor says, that love you have can blind you from that truth. And the same thing with hate. If you hate, like you hate religion, everything about it, I was traumatized in my faith. Then if a truth walks in with that faith, through that faith, you can't see it because you're holding on to that hate. So Baha'u'llah has said to be detached from everything you love and everything you hate, which I think when you go through a traumatic experience, I think that's kind of what was shed for us. So it's not an easy thing to do because when a child dies, I think you and I were both like, where was our child? Like, I don't care what I loved or hated in the past. I want to know, where is my son? Where is my daughter? Does consciousness exist? Are they still, just give me the I just want to get the truth. I don't care. I have no ego. I don't care.
Absolutely.
So yeah, read spiritual texts and also start to delve into some science because there's a lot of things in our scientific world that can make sense of, like when Jesus said, pray, ask and it shall be given, all of them have told us to pray. What is prayer? Prayer is thought. And now science tells us thought is energy. You can measure it now. It has an effect on the molecular structure of things. So the holy ones couldn't tell us that. We would think they were crazy. But now that our science is at a certain level, now it kind of can make sense. So Baha'u'llah has said, it's like two wings of a bird. Science and religion need to be like two wings of one bird. And where one is different, we need to search and find where they connect. Religion without science can lead us into darkness, can lead us into superstition, pain, fear, control, illusion. And then science without religion can make us into like creating bombs that want to blow up the world. But when the two come together, it's like wings of a bird for humanity. And I always like that. So I don't know if that helps you.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's going to be a real.
And then feel good always. I think I kind of just said it
You
about
did.
being chill and hellfire, that when you just we're all on a spiritual journey. You're on one whether you know it or not anyway. Just keep going, keep searching, keep asking questions, and listen to people. I know I like to listen to a lot of people who had near-death experiences because that gave me, just listening to other people and their experiences also gave me comfort and also created more questions for me and gave me these little like breadcrumbs on where to go next.
That feeling that they describe in near-death experiences helped me know what Kira felt because they describe it enough. Millions of people, this bliss feeling. When I sit in the oneness where everything connects, I don't know if it's exactly the feeling, but it feels like the words that they use to describe it of I love everything and everyone and the trees and the birds and everything. It's that feeling, that love. That is what the feel good always energy is, which is what they describe, which is the freedom that is within us that we're all moving towards. And it can come and go for me, but it's pretty good. It's why I'm really happy all the time and just it's good. It's good. Yeah. It's good. And that's that feel in the feel good always. It's a feeling and we're spreading it one person at a time.
Yeah.
The people that are listening, you are part of this. And this is the last thing I'm going to say, is that we're all part, you're part, I'm part, the guys here at Live Action Music, all the people that are listening, people that I don't even know on, in this earth body, but we know each other and we're all raising the consciousness together so that we can all experience this connection of oneness, the truth of who we are, and that we do it one person at a time, one conversation, that every conversation, everything that we do matters. It matters. And it's not some big, huge thing that we have to do. It's literally what we just did right here, or listening, or sharing this podcast, or reading spiritual texts with other people, moving into this questioning and into this energy. It's how we do it. And when enough of us do it, which is a small percentage of people, it will happen everywhere because that vibration is rising. There's no stopping it.
Yes.
It's coming for us all. And I know it, I feel it, and I know that people believe me. And we're all going to breathe it into existence.
Yeah.
So thank you for helping me do that today. Thank you for being on the other end of the phone when I wanted to die. I'm glad that we're sitting here and not wanting to die in this moment.
Me too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for everything you're doing in the world and for willing to say yes to this.
Yeah.
Of course you did.
I'm
And
so grateful for you.
we're just,
Yeah.
that we help each other, that I can
Yeah.
help you and you can help me and we can just do this because we do it together. We have to do
Yes.
it together. I can't do this alone.
And can we say if there are people out there listening who are in a lot of pain, who've lost a child, we send our love to you. You'll make it. You will survive.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah, you will survive. I hope you believe those words.
Yeah.
Yeah, and your child's right here with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening and thanks for coming on. I love you.
I love you too.
I appreciate you. And yeah, tune in next time.